Welcome to the Budget Review Subcommittee on Economic Development, Tourism, and Environmental Protection. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Angel, Senator Smith, Representative All, Representative Bray, Representative Gentry, Representative Hart,
Here.
Representative Lockett,
Here.
Representative Weber, here. Co-Chair Fugit,
Here.
and Chair Boswell.
Here. Well, we would approve the minutes from last meeting, but we don't have a quorum, so we'll skip that. We'll go, we're on a kind of a tight schedule today, so we'll go right into presentations. I think today we have Secretary Noel and Cabinet, from the Cabinet from Economic Development on rural area projects within the Cabinet. At this time, I would like to swear in the presenter. And we also have Katie Smith with us also. Please raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I do.
Thank you. As you begin your testimony, please identify yourself for the record. Members of the committee, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. We're probably going to limit questions today, if at all possible, because each member has a copy of the presentation, and if you have any pressing questions, we'll see if we have time. Proceed.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jeff Noel, and I'm the Secretary for the Cabinet for Economic Development. And also on my right is Matt Wingate, who is our General Counsel. And it's a great pleasure to be here today. I'm going to keep it to about 5 minutes. And obviously, we have provided, I think, some preliminary material. Happy to come back, answer any questions that you have. But especially for someone who grew up on a farm, who believes very strongly in the basic core commitment and core importance of agriculture and our rural communities, we appreciate the chance to be here today. Being back home and traveling around the state, I am very pleased when I drive and I see all of our smaller communities and the way that they have great resilience. I think they've got great identity, and we need to recognize that they are a huge building block for our long-term success as a state. And we believe, candidly, every project that our cabinet works on is a building block relative to supporting all of Kentucky, but supporting various regions, and that includes those that are populous, those that are rural. And we think that education and investments in transportation are also critical to the world of economic development. And sometimes we need to reference and remember, we have great coastal communities. We've got strong agricultural resource areas. We've got some urban communities. They all create a tapestry that makes Kentucky unique. And I think the more we lean into that, the more we celebrate that, and the more we talk about that, the more I think our state can grow. And I also will tell you, I appreciate so much this legislature and working with the governor on the KPDI program. We have seen tremendous success across the state, both in the pilot phase and in the phase 1, and now phase 2 with some 70 applicants that have come in all across the state, and a lot of regions working together to celebrate those differences but those interdependencies, and we've provided information on that going forward. And last but not least, the timing of this body's discussions is really, I think, outstanding, because we have launched a strategic planning process. We are retaining an outside consultant, and we'll be bringing in all of the various structures across the state to really develop a strategy to build on our foundation of success. And it includes very specific call-outs, Representative Fugate, based on our meeting here some months ago, that we definitely need different strategies and more flexible strategies for rural communities. And built into that process is a subcommittee that's going to help guide us from across the state in those rural areas to make sure the strategy reflects what's happening in our rural areas. So again, we appreciate the time, and we think it's a good time for us to be here today. We only mention this because we have seen tremendous amount of projects that have been announced. But having been in Mayfield, as an example, recently, having been in Madisonville just last week, going back down to Henderson, what I've discovered is when you have some big projects in certain areas like Hopkinsville and elsewhere, down going into Henderson, the impact on Union County, we know that these big projects actually create benefits for multiple regions, including more rural communities. And what we're seeing is companies are reaching out to those neighboring communities to make sure they're a part of their hiring processes and their procurement processes, to make sure the region benefits, not just where they have located. I think another program that has done a lot of good things is our entrepreneurial hubs and a lot of like the SSBCI programs. You'll see the results that we had from 21 through 2022. A lot of those are in rural areas, and I'm going to highlight that here in just a moment. The projects that we have announced, if you think about definitions, and everybody has their own, the federal government, but we try to look at it by saying populous being the 10 most populous counties in the state, and then those others would be more of the rural. And so if you see in 2022 as an example, we had 130 projects that were announced in the rural communities, 118 in the populous. Yes, you do see a disparity between the number of jobs, but pretty close on investment. But nonetheless, what we believe is there are some communities that we are better off trying to bring in smaller kinds of operations to fit those communities and get more of them, and that's part of our strategy. And again, I just wanted to share with you some of the results that we had. In addition, I wanted to talk about some of the new and expanding industries tied to the EV, because whether we like all the policies at the federal level or what's happening globally, we do know a lot of things are changing, a lot of investments, and Kentucky is leading the nation in all the kinds of attractions of these types of businesses. And to sum it up, again, lots of information is provided in this deck, but I wanted just to offer a couple of my own personal beliefs, and I think you all would share them. I really do believe that rural economic development needs to focus on the unique strengths of each area. I don't think we can take one tool and say it fits every community across all 120 counties. And I think they also have to have an understanding of the adjacency that takes place. There may be some tools that help support the more populous areas, other tools that better support the rural communities, and that there's an interdependency. Give you a perfect example. We've got a program around Supply Kentucky, and we're trying to make sure that all new companies to the state look to first procure from Kentucky companies, wherever they may be. And I think that in that space, we basically say when you get an incentive, we want you to use this Connex tool to go online, and then we're encouraging Kentucky companies to go online. We're trying to match up that relationship because that's how we can grow from within while bringing in someone from the outside. Let's go back to the slide before, because then I'll finish up and then I'm going to invite questions. Katie, I apologize for that. I also say that there are different kinds of businesses in rural areas besides some of the more populous. And I really do believe that some of our tools need to be catered and directed at some of the tourism things that are happening. Also some smaller companies. We're in some very rural areas. We're trying to bring some really strong companies that are looking to attract workforce and train workforce in that rural area, but the cost of getting them in, doing the building, they're a little bit higher than they are in more of the urban areas. And so I think we need to reflect that in some of our tools and some of our strategies, going forward. I also really do believe that these communities that I have visited, they've got a great brand awareness. They have something about their community they're so proud of. It could be their heritage. It could be where they're located. They are really leaning in to doing what they're doing. And I went to, like, say, Madisonville last week, and I'm very pleased to see their programs are on entrepreneurialism, what they're doing to really take advantage of their airport, working with the community college, and it's benefiting all the surrounding communities. And so I think we have to understand that better, and I think our strategy will help call that out in a way that will be beneficial for all going forward. And last but not least, and again, I give this body tremendous credit, I give the governor credit, and I give the local communities especially all of the credit, because that's where it happens. And shared responsibilities do lead to shared opportunities. And the capacity and the strength of leaders that I have met in these rural communities who have not only that passion, but understanding and a willingness to roll up their sleeves and say, let's get it done approach is the magical sauce for making things happen in rural areas. So I'll close by saying, first, we've got a lot of programs and tools that you all have provided to us, and we're seeing good results across the state. There's better ways to leverage them. I think more importantly, as we look at what we've accomplished over the last 2 years, let's build on that foundation of success. Let's really get this strategy that hones in not just Kentucky in a broad way, but looking at those strategies and those tools that really help reflect and match up with all of the various unique elements that we have in our state, which individually they're fantastic. But when we put them together in that tapestry, that's what makes Kentucky unique and even stronger. And I think our tools and our strategies will reflect that, and will reflect the flexibilities around how do we build out all communities and how do we take advantage of those strengths that they have going forward. lots of information in here, Senator Boswell, but I'm trying to honor and respect the short duration of my presentation, which for those that have seen me present, that's a very hard thing to do. So I apologize for the short nature, but obviously willing to answer any questions and come back and answer more after you've had a chance to look at the materials that we provided. Yes, sir.
Representative Fugate has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here today. Again, I like when you say that each area have their own strengths. East Kentucky is probably different than the rest of the entire state because of the terrain and the mountains and all that. And I've mentioned to you all before, I think, about the Hatfield-McCoy Trail System in West Virginia. In West Virginia, the General Assembly of West Virginia has recognized the tourist or the adventure tourism ATV trail system as economic development because of the economic impact. Last year in 8 southern West Virginia counties, $38 million economic impact just to those 8 counties. And they were all coal producing counties that now the coal business is shut down. I really would like to meet with y'all maybe in my office sometime about using that as economic development in East Kentucky. And I know we've got our trail system that's up and going and are actually in the beginning stages of signing agreements with landowners and different things. But I've got some ideas that maybe we could build off of the trail system to get maybe some, I don't know, I just want to pick your brain about how do we go after a company, say a manufacturer for ATVs, maybe that would move to Eastern Kentucky because of the trail system and being so close to West Virginia, Virginia, Tennessee, East Kentucky, and maybe go after one of those manufacturers to bring into East Kentucky because of the being so near to all the other trail systems. I believe that, I just believe that something like that may work. We do have workers. We got people that's interested in that kind of thing. And so I would like to maybe set a meeting up with you and maybe Representative Weber just to talk about some ideas that we have and move forward. Because I'd really like to see this ATV trail system take off in East Kentucky. To see 96,000 riders came to West Virginia last year, 96,000. And if we had 96,000 people come from out of the state to East Kentucky to ride ATVs, and the money would pour in, and it's outside money, that would be a help to local people, local businesses, and it would be a big strength to East Kentucky because, we need to utilize what the Lord's allowed us to have down there and bring people in to see it. So that's all I have, really, just a comment.
We're happy to meet, look forward to it, and you'll see later in the deck we talk about some of the big fundamentals out of our strategy. It includes ecotourism. Mr. Hubbard's doing a great job in Eastern Kentucky with some of the motorized tourism activities. Right. And one comment as it relates to tourism, I believe in it very strongly. And also I think we overlook the fact that when you have a vision around tourism in a smaller community, it not only attracts those people from outside, but it brings in some of the small businesses that support that tourism that also helps improve quality of life and optionality for the folks that live there. Right. And then when you do bring in a company, and we look forward to identifying ATV manufacturers, assemblers, and others, because I think it's a great idea. When you bring them to a smaller community and they sense tourism and they see folks from New Jersey, New York, or wherever that may be in those areas, because I've met some of those folks on my trips around Kentucky, and especially in eastern Kentucky. They get a different perspective of the community. And with that tourism, they envision how their folks that they need to bring in to run that facility will acclimate in and be a part of that community from a lifestyle perspective. So tourism brings not only the jobs and the economic activity, it creates something that helps you also attract other things. So we're very strongly supportive of that, and that's one of the reasons it's called out in our strategic planning process.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Fugate, for your question. Do we have any other questions by the panel? We do have a couple minutes if anybody would like to ask a question. Seeing there are no other questions, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Make a motion. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. And meeting is adjourned. We'll announce that the next meeting of our committee will be August